You worked with Ted Turner, right? Did you
Yes.
spend a lot of time with him?
Yes, I did.
What was, by the way, the difference between him and Trump? What's the difference between the two personalities? And maybe even Vince McMahon in that conversation. Because Ted is he's a pioneer of what he did with CNN 24/7.
You know what? It's hard because with Ted and I, it was just real business. You know, all I can say is anything Ted Turner would say, he would do it. You know, as the personalities, I didn't get to know Ted like I did.
So you didn't break bread with him? It was just purely
no.
business.
Because my main relationship, like you said, was with Eric Bischoff.
Makes sense.
Because Eric Bischoff was running, and Harvey Schiller were running interference between Ted, and doing whatever he was doing. But all I know is everything that he said he would do, he did.
So you're complimentary of Ted. You have good memories of Ted. When you think about
I've got nothing bad to say about Ted Turner. I don't know where he stands, as far as his political views or personal views. I have no idea.
By the way, I don't know if you've ever read his book. At the end of his book, I think the book is called Ted. The last chapter is how disappointed he is in what happened to CNN. He said, I created CNN to make the news the star. He said, now the news is no longer the star. The anchors are the star. That's not why I created CNN. The ending of the book is a phenomenal book to read. The guy was ahead of his time for what he created. But maybe let's do the comparison with Eric Bischoff. Because when you're saying he's in Connecticut, I think you were saying Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Vince McMahon, and you're on the road. You're going to all Kansas City, all these places you're going. So he wasn't front camera, like doing what he was doing. And then you see where Bischoff comes up and he becomes a heat. He becomes the executive producer, and they're going out there. Now they're taking people away from, Vince. Right. Now they're coming after all the talent. They come to pick you up. Then they got a bunch of other guys. Why would you leave? Well, you just did that. Why are you upset now that we're doing it? Well, and that was a little bit of the controversy in the documentary, which I thought it was fascinating. What was Eric's style of moving you guys and challenging you guys and selling you the vision or creativity? Where did he have the edge over Vince at the beginning? Not at the end. We know what happened at the beginning.
Well, I think Eric was real aware of things had to be fresh and more organic, and he wanted everything to be live, not live to tape. He wanted it to be live. And, when I came in, it was like a small Southern Belt type wrestling company, and all of a sudden, as soon as I came in and we started ramping up, all these other wrestlers like Macho Man, I even brought, like Mean Gene with me, the announcer, and Bobby Heenan and several people, kind of like, and it's horrible to say. I mean, it sounds so egotistical, but the character, not me, but the character where the Hulk Hogan character went, the wrestlers kind of knew that there would be more revenue generated because, like when I was in New York working for Vince, sometimes we were running 3 towns a night. We'd say the Hulk Hogan town against Macho Man may be the A town, the B town might be the Warrior, and the third town would be the tag team champions would be on top. But when guys would get their booking sheets, they'd look to see if they were on the Hulk Hogan card because they knew instead of making like $500 in the first match, they'd probably make $3,000. So they kind of knew that we were going to draw money and that the arenas would be sold out. And that even sounds egotistical, but it's true. And so I think when I went down to Ted Turner and all of a sudden the numbers started to spike, I think Eric Bischoff had an open checkbook. And
Ted's checkbook, right?
Exactly. Right. He could offer these guys better deals and they could make more money with. Part of the problem was at the time was the schedule. We'd be on the road 300 days a year. And you have to work hurt. But Eric gave these guys an opportunity to work a lot less and make more money. So it made sense to make more money and be able to be home with your family.
Is that what you were selling to the guy saying, look, this guy I'm working, I mean, from 300 days, what did they work in? 200, 150? Or was it a dramatic?
Yeah.
Oh, 50% less.
Yeah. Well, it was, I'm not saying 50, but it was around 50.
Okay,
because I didn't work as many days as the other guys.
And he's still making the same kind of money while he's doing that. You don't have to do...
Making more money
doing 150 instead of 300. Yeah. And one of the things that I thought it was very dirty, but I thought it was very creative, where they're like, okay, you don't need to watch a show because we're live, this is recorded. Here's who won. This person tapped out. This person... What a dirty, creative play to say it in advance where the other guys are not live. So you're having people giving you an update on what's going on. Like, why am I going to watch it? I'm going to stick around and watch you, Bischoff. That was very creative.
There's no substitute for victory.
Yeah, I mean, and he even talks about his podcast today is called the 83 Weeks. I believe he calls the podcast 83 Weeks. With what he's got going on. So, do you think later on when Vince buys Bischoff and the entire WCW, I think it's WCW, right? He buys them for $2.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then he buys the catalog, Rob, if I'm not mistaken, for $1.7 million. So you buy the catalog and you buy the entire thing for $4.2 million. But do you think without Bischoff, if there is no Eric, Vince is not forced to recreate himself to become who he becomes next? Like he almost needed an Eric as an enemy?
Well, competition is always great, especially in the wrestling business. And at the time, there was a situation where Eric Bischoff was trying to negotiate a deal to buy WCW. And he had an investor named Brian Badal who started some type of sports network or something. I'm sure he can find it. And so it was around 55 million bucks or whatever it was. But then all of a sudden that time came where Ted Turner emerged with American Online. And basically, they didn't want wrestling as part of their portfolio because on TBS and TNT, we had the two highest rated shows on Turner's network. But they wanted movies of the week, new programming, and Turner Classics. So at the end of the day, when American Online merged, Ted Turner kind of like disappeared and ended up kind of like at the back of the hallway, if I could say it that way. And American Online kind of took over. And instead of Eric coming in and buying it at the time, the only thing that was less was there were no TV rights. So the only thing that was left was basically the logo and the library. At that time, I didn't think of the library. So my thing was I called Vince, even though I was his competitor at the time and trying to put him out of business for 10 years. I wouldn't even say try to put him out of business, but try to be a bigger company than him at the time. I called Vince and said, hey, Vince, WCW's for sale, and Eric's not buying it. You can probably just buy it for pennies on the dollar, maybe $3 or $4 million. I didn't even think about the library.
So that was his idea to buy the library. What did he do with the library, though?
Oh, he's got a 24-hour network, the WWE network.
And by the way, Ted Turner got screwed in that American Online, Time Warner, whatever that was. If you ever read the book and read the story, that deal didn't go his way. He could have made an additional $7, $8, $9 billion, but it ended up not. Again, the deal, he lost air control, and he was a founder. He was good with the ideas. He was a driver. People trusted him. He kept his word. And then once that was gone, the swagger that they once had, they just didn't have anymore.
It changed completely. It was a completely different company to be working for once he was out of the
And then in that moment, did Eric realize, shit, I no longer have Ted backing me up. I got to go knock on the door with Vince. And were you part of that conversation? Like, did Eric come up to you and say, hey, I'm thinking about going to Vince, or maybe can you put me in contact with Vince? Or was it organic the way it happened?
That transition is a little blurry for me right now because after that happened, I think I just my body pretty much shut down on me, and I ended up having like 25 surgeries in the last 10 years. Like I said, I didn't know that stuff was fake. No one told me. And I went ahead and started helping with a show out of Universal Studios called Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. And this lady named Dixie Carter owned it. And Eric came in to help produce the show. And I was there like for 4 years. And they wanted to renew me again. And I just had enough. I was ready to go home and relax. And
was it just boring, or was it?
No, it wasn't that. It was just a grind, And Dixie wanted to compete with Vince. And I said, well, then we got to go Monday nights on the road. We got to go live, and we went out. And to compete with Vince, $50, $60 million, $70 million isn't going to do it. You need an influx of money consistently to compete with that monster up there. And it got real exciting for a while, but then when that influx of money just didn't come pouring in for whatever reason. It didn't make sense to move on. So after like 4 years, when it was time for me to renegotiate, there was a couple year deal offered, and I just was done.
You're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but the last 13 and a half years, I've been working on my first fiction book to write, ever. Fiction book to write. And while I finished this book, a year ago, I got the strangest phone call about one of the characters in the book where the guy wanted to meet with me, and he read the book. And afterwards, is like, wait a minute, am I the villain in the book? This is a story about a character named Asher, who is half Armenian, half Assyrian, whose father was involved in the Iranian Revolution, linked to Savak, working with the Shah, that they escape and he gets recruited to a secret society. Well, when you go to the secret society, it's been around for a couple thousand years. They've developed some of the craziest leaders of all time. And they test you. There's unique tests that they have at this society where they test to see your emotional mental toughness. One of the tests that they have is very rigorous. It's purely mental. Of course, there's a physical one, but one is mental and emotional. If you're Armenian, if you're Syrian, if you're Persian, this is a book you're going to be reading and saying, holy moly, this is the kind of stuff you talk about in here? Yes. If you're somebody that's fascinated by history, this is a book for you. Characters. There's a technology that this society, secret society, builds where you go into a vault. I won't spoil it for you. When you go down, they have a technology where you get to sit down and watch and have a 3-4 hour conversation with Tupac. You can set up a debate between Karl Marx and Ayn Rand. Karl Marx is in the book, who wrote Communist Manifesto. Ayn Rand, who wrote Atlas Shrugged, is in the book. Marilyn Monroe explains the concept of seduction and sex in the book. When you read the book, it's about development of the next leaders in the world and how they do it and how they've been doing it for many years. And it's also about how to prevent the end of civilization and how this organization goes about doing it. So, I've never written a parenting book before, but if I ever wrote a parenting book, this is the closest thing to it because it's all mindset, a lot of crazy stories. Again, 13 and a half years. Trust me, I told myself I will not publish this book until I sell my insurance company and I'm fully disconnected from it, where it's no longer my responsibility 100%. When you read this, if you're a creative person, if you like fiction books, if you enjoyed Atlas Shrugged, or if you enjoy Divergent, if you like books like that, I think you're going to enjoy reading this book. It's the creative side. Business books is very easy. Here's how you do it. Here's how this how it works. This is very creative. If you haven't placed the order yet, now you can order it on Simon & Schuster, Amazon. I'm going to put the link up below somewhere here, maybe even in my profile. Go order the book and read it. I've never written a book where I can't wait to read your reviews to see what you think about this book. So I'm going on this wild journey, and we have some plans with this book here. If you support the things that I work on, I would appreciate you going and reading the book, order the book on Amazon, and then post a review.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.